My name is Christina Del Villar. I run the marketing and partnerships here at Webgility, and I will be the host today. As a marketer myself, I'm super excited about today's webinar. I've been talking to Bronto for a while now about putting this on and a couple of other ones, so I'm really glad to get this kicked off. But before we get started, I want to cover a couple of housekeeping items. So first off, everybody is on mute, but we really want you guys to participate, and if you have any questions during the actual presentation, go ahead and submit those via the question box on your panel. Again, our goal is to make it really interactive, so we'll also take Q&A at the end, but if there's anything during, we'll also try to interject there as well. We are going to be recording this webinar, and we will make the recording and slides available to everyone after. And also feel free to participate via Twitter using the hashtag email strategy, and also if you're not already following Bronto Software and Webgility on Twitter and Facebook, please do so. So for our agenda today, we have about an hour for the webinar, and I'll start off with a little bit about Webgility. Try not to get too much into that because there's some really good stuff that we want to get to. But today's webinar is really about driving home the 3 cornerstones of how to drive revenue through email marketing and email marketing campaigns. And it's really to help you focus your efforts in terms of your resources and what it is that you're doing. So we'll start by giving an overview of the best practices, best practice methodologies that Bronto drives home every day with their own clients. Then we'll do a deep dive into each of the 3 key areas within the best practice strategy. So we'll cover acquisition and how to grow your lists. We'll talk about tactics for conversion. And finally, we'll talk about what you need to do to retain these customers that you just spent so much time capturing. Again, our goal is to have a lively introduction, so please participate via chat and questions and also Twitter. Again, my name is Christina, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce Jamie right now. So Jamie, she manages the partnerships globally for Bronto Software and has done so for nearly 6 years. She's been there quite some time. Her passion is actually crafting strategic solutions that combine Bronto's commerce marketing automation platform and the best practices from her partner's technology and services. And really the goal is to move the revenue needle for all of their clients. She started working with Bronto, like I said, she's been there for 6 years, which is fantastic. She started in their North Carolina headquarters, and then she got to go to London, which is fantastic, and spent 2 years there launching their European channels. And now she manages the partnerships for Bronto down in the Los Angeles office. So thank you so much for being here today with us.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to it. That was a very gracious introduction.
Well, again, you have such a tremendous background, and it's great that you've been with Bronto for a long time, so you've seen how they've progressed and how the clients have progressed and sort of seen this morphing of what's happening for marketing and e-commerce. So it's great to have you here.
Absolutely. Very excited.
Yeah. I'll talk a little bit about Webgility. So we were founded in 2007 in San Francisco, and what we do is we provide a multi-channel e-commerce platform for businesses, and it really helps them streamline all of their operations, including inventory, accounting, all the different order management components and shipping, and really allows you to scale. We are partnered with and integrated with over 70 different platforms, including QuickBooks, NetSuite, and Xero, and some of the other marketplaces like Amazon, Etsy, and a tremendous amount of the sort of more popular shopping carts like Shopify and BigCommerce. Our goal is to really help our customers understand the data that they're getting from their shopping information and data and financial data so that they can make smart decisions. And that's why I think that the entirety of what's going on in the marketing is just critical. So you have your sales data, and now what do you do with that, and how do you leverage that to market? So for us, it's exciting to sort of combine what we're doing and what Bronto is doing. I won't go into too much detail about our solution itself, which is Webgility Unify. You can go to our website, but again, we really help folks integrate their shopping cart information into their accounting, into order management, shipping, and inventory as well. So, but I really want to get to Bronto and Jamie's presentation, so I'm going to go ahead and hand that over to you, Jamie.
Sure, thanks, Christina. Little bit about Bronto, in case people are not familiar. We are a marketing platform for commerce. We provide a cloud-based commerce marketing automation platform for mid-market and enterprise organizations worldwide. We are very pleased to continue to report that we are the #1 email marketing provider to the Internet Retailer Top 1000 for 3 years now. And we have a client roster of leading brands worldwide around 1,500 clients, including great brands like Vince Camuto, Lucky Brand, Theory, Bjorn Borg, and Christopher & Banks. We are 100% focused on commerce marketing, and it shows in our products and our services. Some other recognitions that we're particularly proud of are continually being recognized for the Stevie Award for Best Customer Service Department, and we are also a CODI finalist for the Best Marketing Software and Best Marketing Automation Solution. I've been with the company for almost 6 years now. Started out in our headquarters in Durham, North Carolina, moved to our London office, and now I am located in our Los Angeles office. So I thought that I would start us out with a bit of a poll today to get a feel for the magnitude of the email programs that we're working with on our webinar today. So if you could take a moment and let me know, are you dealing with sends of less than 10 million emails per year, between 10 and 20 million emails per year? Are you in that 20 to 40 million email per year range, or are you an enterprise program dealing with more than 40 million emails a year? We'll give everybody a second to get those answers in.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, I think that email is still, the #1 way that folks can market, and it's interesting because our volume has actually gone down a bit because we've become more strategic and more segmented, but it is interesting to see where people are. So I think give everyone just another second or two. It looks like most people have answered already, so we'll go ahead and make those polls live. So it looks like 91%.
We've got a wide spread.
91% are doing under 10 million emails per year. So that kind of gives us a frame of mind and Jamie, your mind as you're going through the rest of the presentation.
Great, and we've got a big fish out there somewhere, it looks like.
Yeah.
I think this will be a good presentation, and I'm happy to see that. I feel like I've got the right audience here. So today, let me advance this. Today we're going to be talking about a conversation about where to focus. So let's get started with a conversation about how to visualize your email marketing program and where to focus your efforts. Being in the e-commerce software industry, I have attended a fair share of trade shows, as I'm sure many of you have, and I speak frequently with partners and clients. Even as an e-commerce software professional, I am honestly overwhelmed with the amount of options that are out there for retailers and online merchants to select from. And I can only imagine, if I were in your shoes, that it would be tough. And with this myriad of software options, there comes also a plethora of tactics and strategies that are at your disposal to build into your digital marketing revenue strategy. Today, I'd like to help you think about how you build your strategy for one of the top 2 digital marketing channels, email marketing. So looking at this picture, email marketing for commerce is best visualized in 3 funnel phases. So first is acquisition. In email marketing, acquisition refers to people raising their hand and letting you know that they would like to receive email marketing messages from your brand. There's a big difference between the value of someone who raises their hand versus someone who is unwittingly being blasted with messages that they didn't ask to receive. That difference lies both in the cost to communicate with them as well as the potential value of converting this visitor into a buyer. The second life cycle phase is conversion. This is that moment when that hand raiser makes an investment in your product. A number of things happen at this point that make this an especially valuable moment. Not only have you made a sale, but you have now acquired the holy grail, which is purchase data. There is a lot you can do with this data, and we'll dig into the specific tactics a bit later in the webinar. The third and final phase is retention. Retention is not necessarily quote-unquote final, in that it's all about turning one-time buyers into ongoing, repeat, loyal customers who ideally become brand advocates. There are literally infinite ways to optimize your customer retention in email marketing, but we'll dive into a few top tactics that Bronto clients have found to drive the most revenue today.
Yeah, and I think, Jamie, it's important to recognize that there are sort of those three phases. I know a lot of our customers sort of start off thinking just about the first one, which is the acquisition, and sometimes either forget about or don't necessarily feel like they have time to focus on the conversion and retention component, but it's absolutely key to the success of your program and increasing your revenue.
Completely agree, Christina. It's important to look at all areas of the funnel, and we'll try to give some easy ways to make sure that you're hitting each of those areas today. So within the acquisition, conversion, and retention lifecycle, there are many, many available tactics. What you see here is a visual of many of the campaign tactics that our Bronto in-house strategists repeatedly advise our clients on. At Bronto, we adhere to a crawl, walk, run methodology. That's pretty self-explanatory, but please humor me as I go ahead and explain it anyway. We believe it's essential to crawl before you walk and walk before you run. And we find that this is especially true when it comes to driving revenue through email marketing. It's always best to start with the low-hanging revenue fruit and then tweak from there. So if you start at the left of this visual here, you'll see in darker green what we consider to be the most foundational tactics to acquisition, conversion, and retention. Those are welcome series, pop-up sign-up, cart recovery, optimized transactional messages, and a few key post-purchase series tactics. To the right, in lighter green, we see a number of more granular and often very effective additional tactics. Today, I'm going to take you through a proven methodology of conquering the first few blocks that you see highlighted in that darker shade of green on the left. Okay, before we do so, I'd like to take another quick poll. I want to get a read on what tactics you are currently employing so that I can get a hold on how familiar you might be with some of these. So let us know if you are currently using any of these. This is multi-select, so welcome messages or multi-message welcome series, abandoned cart messages. Are you segmenting your database at all? And finally, have you integrated your commerce website with your email marketing software? Or if none of the above, just go ahead and check that one.
Yeah, so while we're waiting for folks to go ahead and do that, again, I think it's interesting that we, have come so far with the technology that's available, and part of it's just understanding it, and I do think that you need to spend some time, actually planning some of these things out. So, Jamie, as you go through, I think it'll be really important for folks to focus on some of these areas that they're actually not currently employing.
Yep.
It looks like we have the majority of folks have voted, so we'll go ahead and make that poll live. So yeah,
polls. This is great. Okay.
I know, right? It's exciting. So it's interesting. So obviously, a lot of people are using welcome message, but it's still, there's still obviously some folks out there who aren't even, doing that. And whether that's because they don't know what to do or how to do it, or they don't have the technology. Abandoned cart messages are obviously critical, and I know you'll talk a lot about that. And then obviously being able to segment your database. We do that here at Webgility, and it just helps us focus our message a little more clearly for our audience. So it looks like some people are doing that, almost 30%, which is great. And it looks like a lot of people do have integration with their website, and 19% are not doing any of the above. So I think this will be a good opportunity for them to get some tips and some quick hits on how to increase some of their potential there.
Fantastic. Yeah, these are great stats. Thanks for sharing, Christina. So, step one in the funnel, acquisition. Let's talk about acquisition as a whole, not just focusing only on email marketing for a moment. So when we talk about acquisition, we obviously, and I'm sure most of you know this, but we want to be thinking about where your traffic's coming from. We want to talk about what % conversion are you seeing when people actually visit your site? Where is the traffic highest? On which pages? How long are people staying there? What does the sign-up look like? And this is moving specifically into email marketing. What does your email marketing sign-up look like? How many places is it present? Are there clear call to actions? What is the visibility, and is it persistent throughout the site? Also want to think about, in terms of email acquisition, what other forms of acquisition are you using? Are you using affiliate programs, sweepstakes? Are you doing paid advertising? Are you leveraging Facebook or other social channels? So one of the most effective ways to acquire new email subscribers is upon the purchase checkout. This may not immediately seem obvious, but this is a fantastic opportunity to leverage checkout emails to grow your list, because immediately post-purchase is a time in the customer lifecycle when your customers are highly invested in a recent purchase and they're really motivated to continue to engage with your brand. Our client, Envelopes.com, does this through a few different methods. This is an example of their order confirmation email. It shows that the order is indeed complete, and there's personalization that they leveraged here around the name, and they've included the specific shipping and tracking number. And this is a really good spot to engage people, as at this point they're incredibly interested in knowing that their order is being handled properly. And it also represents a smooth jumping off point to migrate customers into being more engaged with your brand. A few things that they do here that we really like is they're offering guidance and support. This helps to foster a good relationship from the very beginning with your clients. Leveraging your checkout email as a sign-up location is a great tactic because it also requires little implementation time for you. It's an easy place to get a touch point in place. Finally, one thing I want to point out about this particular email from Envelopes.com is that it also adheres to the 80-20 transactional content, marketing content best practice, which we'll explore in greater depth later in the webinar.
Hey, so Jamie, I think this is a great example because, oftentimes I hear our customers talking about how, yes, they're sending out a thank you email, if you will, thanking them for the order, but this is taking it a step beyond and like trying to get their attention, trying to keep them involved, giving them some incentives, helping them understand where they need to go if they have any questions. So it's really building on the relationship itself and building that loyalty. So it's really important to just go beyond saying, hey, thanks for buying XYZ.
Yep, absolutely. It's a very commonly missed opportunity, and one that it's kind of a gimme to use that real estate, that purpose. So further to list growth for email marketing, be sure you're leveraging social media channels. They offer excellent opportunities for list growth. Some tactics that you might want to consider in social media for your email marketing database include Instagram shopping, leveraging Facebook Connect lookalike audiences, leading to a Facebook sign-up tab, and also if you haven't started using Twitter lead generation cards, depending on your brand and whether this makes sense for your brand voice, those are a great means of email growth. List growth through social media channels is a great channel because very much like a checkout or an order confirmation email, it's a point where people are very comfortable in the way that they're engaging with you, and it's a really smooth migration to getting them signed up in your database. It's also an excellent channel for offering guidance and support. Again, similar to a checkout email, it's pretty low on implementation time, and it can really accelerate time to engagement with your brand.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's important to think about in this channel is it's relatively downright free in some cases, depending on how you do it. And I know that people do get concerned about, how much time they're going to be spending on social media, but, if you have a focused social media campaign, and especially if it's related to, some of your marketing campaigns, it's actually pretty, doesn't take too much time, and the returns are pretty substantial.
Absolutely, Christina. Another tactic that we've lost because it's actually the most powerful and the most successful of those that we see is pop-up sign-ups, or like some people call them, light boxes. I realize that a lot of people may find these somewhat annoying, and you certainly need to do what's right for your brand. I'm not telling you to force anything upon something that doesn't feel natural for your brand. But that said, Bronto clients have been extraordinarily effective in growing their lists. A very popular tactic is to include, like you see here, an incentive such as free shipping or a giveaway contest to incent that sign-up. So at Bronto, our clients typically see, and this is a crazy statistic, but they typically see 2.5 to 3x list growth rate within the first year, and that's just huge. So we're going to move into a conversion now. Your list is growing. People are eager to hear from you. Let's talk about converting that database to purchasers. I cannot stress enough the importance of a strong welcome message, or better yet, a multi-message welcome series. I think not sending an automated welcome message after someone signs up to receive marketing messages from your brand is a lot like making a new friend, inviting them over for dinner at your house, and then not opening the door when they show up on your doorstep. You've worked so hard and invested so much money to acquire these new subscribers, so make sure you follow through. The best practice here is to send a series of 2 to 3 triggered messages for a positive initial experience. The focus of these messages should be to 1, introduce, 2, inspire, and 3, incentivize that conversion. Messages should reinforce your brand value, and they should build consumer confidence. Some messages that you should consider covering include, within your welcome messages that include things like, why shop with us? What is it that your brand stands for? Help them get to know your brand identity. What makes you so unique? You might even want to consider some how-tos in your welcome series, either in your first initial message or in one of the messages within your series, such as how to choose the right hat fit, or how to coordinate shoes with a certain pair of pants, or if you've got a utility brand, perhaps how to measure for a countertop. Another thing that you can consider introducing is a loyalty program or shopper program. That's a great point to introduce in a welcome series. Finally, what you want to be sure to cover what content your customers should expect to receive in emails from you, and also how frequently will they be hearing from you. This helps you avoid list dropout and unsubscribes later if you set expectations early in the welcome series. So some examples of individual welcome series messages that might be part of a multi-message welcome series include a birthday invite message. You could ask them to share their birth date with you in the initial welcome message so that you can send them a gift. You obviously want to introduce them to your brand, remind them of an incentive you're giving them. So if you use one of those light boxes and said, hey, free shipping if you sign up through here for 3 months, remind them of that incentive that you're now giving them as a result of their sign up. Invite them to create an account and explain the benefits of creating an account. Is there streamlined usability or checkout on your website if they actually create an account rather than checking out as a guest, things like that. Also, you might want to consider introducing top product categories or top products within specific categories that they may want to start their focus on, especially if you have a really vast inventory. My favorite, and potentially one of the most important things to cover, is to ask them to come back to your site and complete a managed preference center, giving you data about their particular product interests, and also giving them the option to let you know the frequency with which they would like to hear from you. Again, this is really helpful in preventing against future unsubscribes, but you've put your customer in control of the messages that they receive and how often they're going to receive them from you. For Bronto clients, we see an average of 33% of our clients' annual email marketing revenue coming from the welcome series alone. So there are a myriad of possible messages and outcomes that you can use as part of the welcome series. But here we're looking at 2 examples of Bronto customers' welcome messages. The first is Not on the High Street, a London brand of ours. They are here offering an incentive to give people 10% off their first purchase, and they've done something really interesting. They actually built out an entire welcome series, with this being one of the first messages. So the way that Not on the High Street's welcome series worked is that the first 3 messages all introduce the Not on the High Street brand, and they go to every consumer. The later messages are then triggered based off of that customer's behavior. So for instance, a customer who makes a purchase as a result of one of the first 3 emails that they get would then be sent a message detailing the various social media platforms that Not on the High Street uses. If a customer opens one of those messages and but doesn't make a purchase, then they've set it up in Bronto such that a message detailing the newest products on the site is then sent next in the series. For customers that didn't open any of the first 3 messages, they get a more offer-based, incentive-based, possibly discount-based message to incent them to purchase because they haven't shown as much initiative to engage with the brand yet. So they're treating them differently than people that have already shown that they're willing to engage with the brand. For people that have actually made 2 purchases, they then go ahead and remove them from the welcome series because they figure they've graduated from that cycle, part of the life cycle within the Not on the High Street brand. For people that purchase once but then maybe don't purchase again for a very long period of time, Not on the High Street sends them a message letting them know that if they make a second purchase, they could be entered in a prize drawing. So that's an example of how you might build out a multi-part, multi-logic, multiple path welcome series as opposed to a single welcome series. Now, not to say that you need to get that complex, but I wanted to give you a view of the range of options that you have in terms of welcoming customers.
Yeah, I think that's great, Jamie. I think because, first off, thank you for all of these fantastic marketing hacks. And again, not everyone's going to be able to implement all of these, but to sort of understand sort of what a best practice looks like is great. I know Webgility, we're a little different from, selling to consumers and products, but we do add how-to videos to our welcome messages. Again, just to sort of help guide them along and understand what the next steps might be for them, or kind of help them understand what it is that they purchased. And I think it's important for people, online sellers, to understand, that their website is very different than a brick and mortar store, and so they need to think about what that, what it looks like for that consumer sort of walking through their online store, and what it is that you need to give them, send them, and help them. So as they're just kind of walking along their journey, if you will, because again, it's not a store where you can point stuff out or say, hey, did you want a belt to go with that, or whatever it is. So you have to leverage the tools that you have, both sort of in store and after that purchase is made.
Yep, that's a great point, Christina. That's exactly what a welcome series is meant to do, is to virtually walk them through the experience of becoming oriented with that brand since they're not physically doing it. Great point. In the case of Not on the High Street in particular, their welcome series produced a 48% email revenue uplift.
Wow.
So they can be very, they can be very effective. Silver Jeans here is another customer of ours. Their welcome series delivers $4.35 per email with a 17.5% conversion rate, which is pretty cool. And then you can see here that this particular message for Silver has created a very significant jump in revenue from 0.5 email-based revenue, originally being 0.5% of their total online revenue, growing to 22% of their online revenue.
That's great.
Yep. So next, we're going to take a look at segmentation as a conversion tactic. So you're welcoming your new clients. You're gaining valuable data from them. Please do not send them all the same one-size-fits-all newsletter. There's some very simple crawl, walk, run strategies that you can employ in the realm of segmentation. So here, one of our clients, Hudson Shoes, found that segmented, brand-focused emails increased overall email revenue by 274% in 2014. They also saw that simply by segmenting based on gender, they saw a 5x increase in conversion rate as compared to messages that were sent to their entire list. Cart recovery message. These are another massive opportunity in the conversion phase of the email marketing funnel. Cart recovery emails are the #1 best performing commerce marketing tactic. Did you know that 70% of all carts are abandoned? Fewer than 10% of email marketers employ this tactic. And when Bronto did a survey of the 42% of customers that were surveyed and the users that were surveyed, 42% of these recipients actually replied that they found these emails helpful. And again, I like to give that out because some people perceive this type of messaging as invasive or potentially annoying. So to know that 42% have said, yes, we actually find these helpful is great information. These messages or series of messages are automatically triggered to remind shoppers of their abandoned carts. Also, these messages can be sent with or without special discounts to incentivize customers to complete the checkout process. So overall, Bronto sees 15% conversion rates on cart recovery messages across our client base. Additionally, these messages typically account for between 10 and 35% of monthly email generated revenue. Here is an example from another Bronto customer, World Kitchen, that you can use as a great template for building the anatomy of a strong abandoned cart message. So what we like about this is there's short, succinct copy. We've saved something just for you, easy, clear. There's also a clear call to action, return to your shopping cart, view my cart right there in the middle, basic blue buttons. And it also includes some value adds down below the fold to the client. Customer service is offered as an option in case they need help or they maybe ran into a question during their checkout. They point out how easy returns are, which again reduces friction to conversion. And they also point out that they're safe shopper guaranteed.
Hey, Jamie, we actually have a question from Veronica. She's asking if by doing these sort of incentives in the cart recovery process, she's asking, doesn't it just train customers to think that if they abandon their cart, they'll actually get a better discount?
That is a great question. So there are a couple ways that we talk to our clients about combating this. And this is one of the reasons that we recommend that you do a series of messages. Within Bronto, we actually have a node that you can use in creating your campaigns that allows you to randomize the message that's sent to abandoned cart recipients. So we recommend that you randomize it so that the pattern is not predictable. So sometimes maybe it's simply saying, hey, we've saved something for you, go back and view it, just like you're seeing here. But other times you may want to throw in an incentive. What you do want to do, or what you want to make sure to do, is to avoid always providing an incentive 100% of the time, because it does indeed train them.
Yep, makes sense.
Yep. So the results for World Kitchen. World Kitchen saw a 35x return on investment from the annual cost of the abandoned cart solution with Bronto, which is amazing. So they paid for it 35 times over, and within the first 3 months alone, they recovered 2,000 abandoned carts.
Yeah, I think that, it's a really great strategy and one that's unique to online stores. I mean, you can't like chase after somebody after they've left your brick and mortar store. I mean, you could, but it's a little awkward.
That might be borderline stalker.
Right. So, but it's great that you can leverage the data that you have about, the consumer, what they've been looking for, as much data as you can have, the better, and really create a better experience for them, while increasing loyalty and revenue. So it's just something that's really unique to online stores, and people really should take advantage of it as much as they can.
Absolutely, Christina. It's a unique dilemma, and this is a very effective way to combat it.
Yep.
Johnny Was, another Bronto client, saw an open rate of 59% on their abandoned cart messages, with 40% of customers clicking through and 17% converting. So for them, this accounts for approximately 2% of their email traffic, but just get this, 2% of their email traffic, but 10.4% of their email-generated revenue. So if you can look at that comparison and metrics, you can see just how effective these can be. So your customers are making purchases. Amazing. Let's keep the conversation going, and let's grow loyalty and increase repeat purchases. So this is where post-purchase series messages and post-purchase series and post-purchase messages come in. Post-purchase series is just that. It is a series of messages that are automatically triggered based off of a completed purchase. The goal of this series is to enhance the customer experience. So things you want to think about here. Know your brand. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Think of these messages as a customer service vehicle. Be engaging and helpful and speak to their perceived needs. Make sure they help build loyalty and set you apart from your competitors. And be sure you balance your messages. Make sure you balance the benefit to the customer as well as to the company. So things that these messages can include are things like thank you coupons, top selling products, a review request, maybe even refer a friend. So things that you want to utilize for post-purchase messages, you utilize purchase data for these, and you want to be sure that you're showing real value by actually being helpful. And again, think of every interaction with your customers as being a chance to spread your brand voice and stand out in the way that you speak to them. I love this message from REI. What a great tactic. Here, REI is utilizing purchase data in order to send an informational/educational message as a follow-up to a purchase. Pretty cool. They've leveraged 2 data points for this message. They're leveraging last purchase date, and they're leveraging product category purchase to be able to put in that message there that says, congrats on your new tent. So basically, REI has created a segment or a trigger based off of product category, and they're sending this message to everyone who's purchased a tent. Now, what I really love about this is it shows actual value to the customers by being helpful for them. They've got care instructions for your tent here, and they've even got, to the right there in that kind of beige bubble, they've got expert advice on setting up a camp, and they've got a checklist that you can use when you're taking your family camping, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for REI's post-purchase series. They give you great information, again, like where to go, where to set up your tent, some of the classes that they have coming up, and then obviously all the other great things that I can purchase to go along with whatever I just bought. So they do an amazing job.
Yeah, they really do. And I think any time that you can take the opportunity to set yourself up as a trusted advisor or an expert on whatever it is that you're selling through your website, you are the expert. You know your area better than anyone else, so take advantage of it and show your personality and make yourself helpful to your clients.
Right.
Now, if you're not quite ready for a post-purchase series, at the very least, you need to make sure that you have optimized your transactional messages. Again, hear me on this. Make sure you optimize your transactional messages at the very least. Transactional messages that you are probably sending already might include a purchase confirmation message or a shipping confirmation message, but there are many other available transactional messages that are ripe for optimization. Transactional messages are a fantastic opportunity to build a relationship with your client because they don't have to be opted into. So unlike marketing messages, transactional messages go to anyone who completes a transaction. Understandably, the open rate on shipping confirmation messages is incredibly high. I bought my stuff. When do I get it? Remember the industry practice of the 80-20 rule for transactional messages. 80% should be transactional content, and no more than 20% should be marketing content. But be sure you use that 20%. I also really like this optimized shipping confirmation message from Philosophy because it's using consistent branding, and they're showing off their other products here. So I've purchased a couple things, or this customer example has purchased a couple things, but they're showing off top sellers. Another thing they're doing here is they're including an email sign-up. And they are also introducing their social brands there at the bottom right to use this opportunity when someone's excited and invested in their purchase to leverage them as a brand advocate on social channels.
And I think this is another great opportunity for e-commerce and online stores. Again, you don't have some of the same opportunities when you're in a store. I think it's important for people to sort of make the most of this. And it really makes for a good customer experience that's going to likely lead them to be repeat customers, refer to their friends, and just sort of general advocacy, especially if they're getting linked in with some of the social media channels that you have out there.
Absolutely. So here in this post-purchase series, we have got a lapsed purchaser series. And a lapsed purchaser series is really a key message for recovery and conversion, in that they're pulling a segment of people that have made purchases in the past, and they're using two key pieces of data. They're using last purchase date, and they're using amount of the last order. So in this case, Not on the High Street has created a segment in Bronto that looks for everyone with a last purchase date of greater than X and with a value of at least X in their order. And then they're triggering out a message to any customers who qualify for that logic. So in this case, they're saying, hey, tell us what went wrong. They've got a sense of urgency here, and they're showing that they actually value their customers. Finally, this is probably my favorite Bronto customer story. This is Brooks Running. This is kind of a neat story. Brooks Running was planning to end of life a particular shoe model that they offered to their clients. So they created a segment of everyone who had purchased this product. They then sent the message, and this message had a 43.39% open rate, 530% higher click-through rate than an average message, and a 503% conversion rate. So the return per email was over 40 times the average return per email for an email marketing period for them. And in the end, Brooks Running decided not to end of life the shoe. They put it back in stock and they continued selling it. I think that's kind of a fun story. And it also shows the power of host series that take into account actual product data. So in the end, we should have happy online merchants and happy customers. You're now communicating with them in a timely, relevant manner, and they are responding with increased loyalty and increased purchases.
That's great.
So Christina, I'd like to finish with a quick little poll to get everyone's thoughts on whether they feel that they can achieve their current commerce marketing goals with the email marketing platform that they're using. So we'd love to just get your thoughts on how you feel about that, yes or no.
That's great. Yeah, so we've opened that up. Yeah, and again, I think that there's some, you don't necessarily need a sophisticated platform to do some of this. The more sophisticated you get and the more robust you want to be and the more data that you have, it is important to be on a more sophisticated platform like Bronto. It's I think that it's just great that we have the capability to do some of these things now that 20 plus years ago when I started we didn't have that. So for us it's pretty exciting. In terms of, it sounds like quite a few people, a third of the folks feel like they do have, they feel like they are achieving their marketing goals with their current platform, which is fantastic. I think that that's great. And then there's obviously, I think that there's always room to to expand and grow. And 36% of the folks don't feel that they're quite there yet, but it's lots of opportunities to get there.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad to see that a lot of people feel like they've got the tools that they need. Right. And for those that don't, I feel like we have, or hopefully I have pointed out that there are a lot of things that you can do to get started crawling before you walk and walking before you run.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to go ahead and open it up to questions. There's been a couple questions that have been coming in, but again, if you have any questions, go ahead and add those to the question panel. One of the questions that came in is, how many emails should you be sending out to your online customers? It says in a month, but just sort of in general, what's a contact management strategy so that you're not being too pushy?
Honestly, I hope this doesn't sound like a cop-out response, but it's kind of all over the place. I'll tell you that I see with our clients everything from once a week to once a month to some do it daily. But depending on your brand, daily could potentially, if it's not relevant for the way that you're engaging and the amount of turnover that you have in your products or changes that you're making to your inventory or whatever it is that you're offering, daily could potentially massively increase your unsub rate, and you want to be careful about that. That's something I'd love to, if you want to email me, feel free to send me an email and I'll wrap in one of our strategists to help talk with you a little bit about what might make sense for you.
Yeah, and we, obviously I think it's a marketer runs into this, whatever industry that they're in. So for Webgility, and we focus on software as a service solutions. We generally don't want to send out more than one. Our strategy is to send out one email a week, but we will go up to 2 emails a week. We've tried doing emails on Sundays, which work really well for us. But again, it is one of those things where you can, you just do a lot of testing. And I think we are at a place, Webgility is at a place now where we feel comfortable with our strategy. But sometimes it's just a matter of putting them out there and seeing, like what your unsub rate goes up to, what your open rate is, what the conversion rate is to sort of determine what the best practice is for you.
Yep.
Excellent. So another question came in. They're asking about when we were talking about the welcome emails, the 2 to 3 email series that you are recommending for the welcome email. How do you sort of test those messages to hone in on the right one? And again, if you're doing segmentation, it might be a little different. But do you have any thoughts on again sort of testing for the right series?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the simple answer is that it all comes down to data and making sure that you're using a tool that actually tracks your conversion rates, including everything from open rate to click-through rate to finally to purchase date, and being able to attribute that correctly back to your email channels. So, I would say definitely start off with one message, and then from there, try a few tactics. Maybe try splitting it off into a few different paths and see, do some A/B testing and see what works best for you.
Yep, I think that makes sense. Again, that's what we do here. Anytime we have a new product or a new solution that we're bringing to market or new partners, I always just want to sort of test and see what works. Someone is asking about going back to the discounts, potential discounts that are offered in the cart recovery emails. What do you guys have a recommendation on? What to offer? When to offer it. I know you mentioned, which I think is a great strategy, having it not necessarily the same exact email going out every time to set those expectations, but do discounts have an impact potentially, and sort of what is a good strategy to think about?
Sure. Like I said, our clients tend to be really big fans of the randomized approach. But to be on the safe side, obviously, I can't speak to your margins or what your discount percentage should be, but in terms of your frequency, I think in general we would recommend trying it without an incentive first and see what that looks like, so you can establish a baseline, and then from there maybe play with randomized offering of an incentive.
Yeah, I think that makes good sense, because again, it sort of helps you. I mean, if you don't need an incentive, there's no reason to put that in there. But again, I think it's good to sort of test that and see if that is having an impact, at least getting people back to your site or to get more information. We have a question here about sort of around data. How do you capture more customer data and information without it being too intrusive? Again, the more data you have, the more segmented you can get, the more sophisticated you can be with your marketing and resources and programs. But how do you get to that level without, again, sort of being too intrusive?
Yep. This is actually one of my favorite questions because A, I'm an email nerd, and B, because I like being in control. So the reason that I think this one can be pretty smoothly done without being intrusive is that you're putting that consumer in control. When you offer them, when you welcome them, be sure to offer them a path to a managed preference center. And this is where they have the opportunity to say, here's how frequently I want to hear from you. And that puts them in a point where they can tell you how frequently they're comfortable with receiving messages from you, so that you don't find them opting out without an explanation. Another thing that you can do through a managed preference center is offer them opportunities to volunteer information about if you give them options for the different types of messages that you may send, or the different types of content that you might include in your message, and then give them an option to select which interests them and which don't, it puts them in a position where they've, A, told you what they're invested in, care about, and are most likely to make purchases from, and B, they've set their own path on what they're going to hear from you, and it puts them in the driver's seat.
Yeah, no, I think that makes good sense. Another question we have is and it sounded like from the poll that a lot of people feel that they have either achieved or have the right tools in place to achieve the sort of sophistication with their marketing. But what are some of, for those folks who are still sort of working on that, what are some of the steps they need to take to kind of get to this level of sophistication? And tools and technology aside, are there other things that they need to think about as well?
Sure. Well, I mean, I would always start with things that require the least amount of implementation. So most commerce platforms send transactional messages, and if you're using an email marketing platform, you might want to consider integrating it with your e-commerce platform so that you're able to manage your transactional messages from your email platform. But be sure those are optimized. They're already going out, So make sure they look good and create an opportunity for additional conversions. And then secondly, I would say things like welcome messages. You may not be bringing in full purchase data from your commerce platform, but at the very least you can make sure that you're triggering an automated message that welcomes people when they sign up from your email. And from then you might want to start to think about expanding into additional segmentation gained through a managed preference center, or pulling in that purchase data and leveraging it for segmentation of your database, or for including dynamic content or content that is specific to products or product categories that have been purchased.
Makes sense. Someone's asking, it was part of the poll question where we asked, do they have integration of their website with their email marketing software? Can you kind of walk through, what that means and why that's important?
Sure. So at the very least, an integration should consist of an opt-in. So you should be able to sign up both your commerce website and add them to your database. I'd say that's probably the very least. But then you start to get into transactional triggers. So there are a lot of different things that are considered transactional that take place on a commerce website. So things such as order confirmation, shipping confirmations, but like forgot password or account created, or maybe you've got an expiring wish list. These are all also considered transactional triggers. So integrating those transactional triggers with your email marketing platform allows you to trigger messages to be sent based off of those transactions. And then from there, other very commonly integrated items or areas include bringing in purchase data or details about the purchases made into your email platform so that you can use that for segmentation purposes. So that would be things like, show me a segment of everyone who has made purchases from the women's category, or show me a segment of everyone who has purchased from the football category as opposed to maybe tennis or basketball. So that's kind of the spectrum of, obviously there are a lot of different things you can do with an integration, break down into its basic building blocks. That would be the start. A lot of email platforms, and Bronto included, we offer a number of pre-built turnkey integrations out of the box, but most email platforms will allow you to create custom integrations or potentially even use an API to achieve things like that.
Yeah, that's great. That kind of brings us to another question that came up, and that's regarding segmentation. I think with the data that we have and with some of the tools we have, we can get very sophisticated with our segmentation, but is there sort of like a rule of thumb for like how high or how low you should actually go with segmentation?
I'm sorry, what was that, Christina?
So with terms of segmentation, you can get pretty sophisticated. And so the question is like how deep should you go with segmentation?
Right. So I think if you go back to that stair-step diagram that I showed showing the kind of the crawl, walk, run tactics, I think you should always use that as your compass. So think about segmentation is extremely important, but don't lose yourself in it. So in other words, focus on making sure that you've nailed down those foundational crawl and walk tactics before you spend hours and hours and hours on end dreaming up minute, granular segments that, yes, might convert, might perform well, but is it a segment of 3 people? If you may want to, but you obviously want to convert those 3 people. But if there's a tactic that you have ignored that might convert, have the potential to convert 10% of your database, make sure you're knocking that out first. And then in terms of what to segment and how deep to go, again, it really depends on your brand. So if you are, say, for example, an apparel retailer, I would think gender. If you're selling gender-based clothing items, gender is potentially an area that you might want to really look at, per the example of Hudson Shoes that I shared. But if you are, say, a sporting goods retailer, then you might really want to focus not so much on gender, but maybe on product categories, because you don't want to be pushing specials on football equipment if someone is only interested in tennis.
Right, makes sense. We were getting close to the top of the hour, so I just have one more question that I think we'll get to today, and that is, and I know this is a hard question to answer, but like, what is the best day of the week to send email for retailers?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a pass on answering that question. I
Okay.
know that there's some industry data out there, and I don't want to misquote it. But one thing that I do want to mention is that some platforms, including Bronto, actually automatically do um, day of week and time of day optimization based off of an analysis that it does on the background. So if you've got a platform like that, or if you're already a Bronto user, I highly recommend that you enable that.
Yeah.
And finally, I don't want to completely bow out of this question. If the person who asked that question, I think I'm going to get a report of that after the webinar. I'm
Yeah.
happy to follow up on that for you and give you that information by talking with our strategist.
And I was going to end with that, but I have another interesting question that just came in, and that is, how do this person specializes in antiques? And so as you're thinking about how to segment and the sorts of emails you would do, and I don't know if you have an answer for this, how do you do this for like one-of-a-kind pieces? Um,
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, I see what you're saying, because you don't have predictable product categories.
right,
You might
right.
want to think about something like a Not on the High Street. I mean, they do have product categories, but they get a lot of new, unique inventory in, and I think, and this is me kind of speaking off the cuff, I'm not a strategist at Bronto,
Right.
but I'll give you a little bit of my insight. I would think that it would make sense for you to really focus on introducing new pieces. And you might be able to combine that with information that you already have in your database about who's most active, what they've bought in the past. So I'd love to take that question offline with you with a strategist as well.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll get those over to you. So I just wanted to end today. First off, I want to thank you very much, Jamie. That was fantastic. Hopefully everybody got a lot out of that. I know we did on our end as well. So thank you for doing that. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting Bronto and me.
I just really want to thank everybody for joining us today, and thank you again, Jamie. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.